what inspires me, especially for the little kids. It'll be great to hear all my process of how I've been going through all the stages through the years. So I'm going to share some photos with you. And then if you have any questions, I'm here to answer as best I can. So I am going to share my screen and let's get started. So first of all, usually the first one takes a while. I was born in Mexico. Here we go. And these are some of the books I've done before, and I'm sure you're familiar with some of them. And actually coming to become a book illustrator happened about 10 years into my career. I was never really planning to be a book illustrator, a children's book illustrator. And someone just called me out of the blue and they said, I think you would be perfect. And I go, no, I don't think so. I'm afraid to do like a series of things where you need to paint the same character and how it gets older. No, it's too much for me. But this really nice woman convinced me. She kept calling me and eventually I did. And then I never looked back. I love this more than anything. I'm really passionate about doing children's book. So like I said, I was born in Mexico. This is my sister and I, Mexico City. And we're trying to pretend to be, I guess, Diego Rivera and Frida Kahlo. I have no idea what we were doing there. And then eventually I moved to England. My parents had a friend that was a painter and they sent me to live with him when I was 11 years old. And when I was there, I created my own official first children's book because I was there for 2 months. And then when I was ready to come back to Mexico, I just packed my bags and I was ready. I just said, hey, thank you very much, you guys. I had a great time in England. And the guy says, where are you going? And I said, I'm going back to Mexico. He goes, empty-handed? And I go, well, yeah. And he goes, listen, I'm an artist. We have a printing press in the basement of the farm. I want you to do and collect your experiences, and we're going to make a book. So this is officially me at 11 years old, drawing my books of my experiences in England. And I really covet this book. I still have 2 copies. I made 50 copies that I brought back and gave to friends and family. And it was just the process of actually going through creating the whole thing that I really, really enjoy. So I thank this artist for guiding me into the right direction way back at the young age of 11. So as an illustrator, as an artist, you need to find inspiration. So where do I get my inspiration? Now, people tell me that I do these beautiful, bright colors all the time. So color is very important for me, guys. And color comes from living in Mexico. Check this out. I mean, the crazy colors of Mexico, and people are like wearing their feelings right into the walls of their properties, right? It's like, I feel angry, I'm gonna paint it red, or I feel a little blue today, a little sad, let's paint it blue. So, not seriously, I love how people are not afraid of color in Mexico. And that eventually transferred into my work because I walk the streets and it just filters into my head, my cabeza, right? I also love the textures. To me, they're like books of history. In Mexico, they don't scrape up the paint. They just paint over it. And then eventually that second layer falls off and then a third layer, but they just keep painting on top of each other. And they look like this beautiful, like modern art. So I wanted to transfer that into my illustrations as well. These textures, these beautiful textures. And of course, people tell me all the time, you have these great textures. And I go, well, they come from the walls of the towns in Mexico. Of course, the dancers, wherever you go, you're surrounded by colors in the mercados, where you go and see the dancers. This is the town where I live. It's in central Mexico too. I spent about 3 to 4 months of the year in a town called San Miguel de Allende. And what's beautiful about San Miguel is that you have changes of color there as well. This is actually during the spring when the jacarandas bloom. So you see these beautiful purples blooming all over the place. And of course, I love dolls, giant dolls. These are called the mojigangas. And of course, they originally came from Spain. And they walk around the town. And so you have these moments of unpredictable moments where you turn the corner and here's this big giant thing chasing you down. So yeah, it's just the seeing things that you're not expecting to see that it also inspired me. So I'm walking all the time with a camera. From the morning, I grab my camera and I take photos of like the floors and the walls and this and that. And people are looking at me like, what are you doing? I go, I'm just enriching my memories because I'm working on a book. So I need to get all these great ideas, that I see in this town of San Miguel. So speaking of unpredictability and something that we as illustrators do, we like to do things, put the familiar in the unfamiliar place. And that makes the book more interesting. And here's a good example of what I mean by that. Turn in the corner, I see these giant geese and I go, what is that? So I thought, first of all, it was just like an inflatable thing. And then as I got closer, and this is in the town of San Miguel, I realized it's an actual building. someone got a permit to do this in the middle of the town, and I thought it was pretty hilarious. So this is where, as an artist, you enjoy seeing these moments of inspiration, and you go, you know what? If they did this in a town, why can't I do something unpredictable on my illustrations? And that's what makes it so interesting, guys, to not draw exactly what the text of the book says, inject some emotion, put something else in there. If the text says Donna goes to school, you know, you can easily just paint her walking to school. But what about, what is she feeling? Is she feeling sad? Is she feeling excited? Is she feeling super, you know, stoked that she's going to see her friends again, or she's not so sure about going? That's where you need to express more about emotion when you're working on a book, though, not just draw what you read, though. All right, let's move on. My biggest inspiration, of course, and this is a big secret that we're going to keep. There's only a few of us. So this is my biggest inspiration, guys. It's the big lizard. Okay. Oh, no, wait a minute. It's the guy next to the big lizard. That's my son, Santiago. My son, Santiago, has been drawing since he was a little kid. And look how he held that pen for the many, many years. So Santi has been drawing, and he has taught me a lot. I mean, he's a lot older now, of course. You know, I tell him to shave that mustache, but that's okay. Santiago drew this when he was about 5 years old. Can you believe that? That's from like Horton Hears a Who. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that. And you saw the movie with Dr. Seuss. And I couldn't believe what a beautiful, simple drawing this was. And at the time, I was trying to be too realistic and drawing too much from photography. And I was getting tired, and I felt that there was no personality coming from me. It was all just looking at reference. And when I saw this, it was so refreshing that I said, from now on, I'm going to start drawing from the heart, because my audience, kids, are very sophisticated, and they can tell that this is an elephant. It doesn't have to be a realistic elephant, because many people can draw a realistic elephant, but few people can draw an elephant that would look just like the way you feel it in your heart. So this was a great moment for me, guys, to say, no more photographs, just paint from memory and paint from your feelings and your emotions. So I'll show you a few more examples of how my son Santi's drawings inspire me. I think he had like tacos, spicy tacos late in the evening, and he had this big nightmare or something. Oh my gosh. But I love how he played with the size and proportion. I thought, this giant bird, this is a great opportunity for me to use a giant bird on another one of my books. And I said, why not write a giant bluebird? But it came from the drawing that I saw from Santi, right? Here's another one too. Oh, yes. By the way, do you think I'm a good drawer? This is what I do when I draw, you guys. Everybody thinks that you draw perfectly. So for you, the young audience who are listening to me, even after 30 years of drawing, I still look like this. This is where you start, the white paper. You start to doodle and do things all over the place. And you said, I'm going to have a bird over here, and I'm going to have a bench over here. I'm going to have this girl jumping on water. But this is what it looks like. Nobody draws perfectly on the very first try, okay? You need to just draw over and over and over. And then sometimes you get frustrated. I get frustrated at my age. And I still love to do this, because it's that practice that makes you better. Because after a few tries, my drawing looked like this. And now you see this park scene where you can see all the birds and the plants. And this happens to be like in the middle of Cuba. But of course, you need the color, right? So in the end, after a couple of days, I add the color. And this is the end result of that illustration. But it all starts with those little doodles and scratches. So never be afraid of that white piece of paper. So speaking of that, would you like to see my studio, guys? You want to see my studio? It's a beautiful studio. I'm sure that you're going to love seeing it, and I can't wait to show it to you. Here it is, my studio. Isn't that beautiful? Isn't that love? Oh, wait a minute. That's how the studio looked when I bought this warehouse. Do you know that I live in downtown San Diego? Right across the bay from you guys. I bought an old warehouse, and it looked like this when I bought it. And of course, it doesn't look like this anymore. This is my studio now. So this is where everything happened. And if we have time, I'll take you on a little tour so we can walk around and you can see some of my original paintings that I have. I'm sitting exactly in that same spot where you see me sitting right there. So this is the studio where all the creativity takes place. Do you know that I do murals as well? At one point, we needed some murals to beautify our downtown San Diego. And about 18 years ago, we started painting murals. And now I started before the pandemic, of course. I'm painting murals all over the US. I've been painting in Chicago. I've been painting in the East Coast. I've been painting on the North Coast. I've been painting in the Bay Area. So what I love to do, why I love painting murals, because I just design a painting and then we transfer it really big into the wall. And then I invite all kinds of friends from different draws of life, from different backgrounds. They come and help me paint. You can be small, and if you need a ladder, that's fine with me. You can have dad. If we're running out of ladders, you can just grab a dad's hair. Be careful not to pull it off, okay? You can invite your mom. Sometimes mom can help out when you paint, but I need a lot of very talented young hands. And this is what I do. It's great to design something and work together as a community, as a group. And you know what's great about this, you guys? It's really not about creating a nice big painting on a wall. It's about creating a sense of community and getting to know your neighbor. Sometimes maybe you don't know the neighbor next door and you've lived there for 10 years and you never said hi to him. And this is a great opportunity to make friends. Grandpas come in handy sometimes as well. Yeah, they've been really, really, really handy. And then guess what happened to me one time, you guys? I was painting away. I was in Chicago and I hear the screeching of this car. And then I turn, I'm painting away. I'm really into it. And I turn and I see that it's a policeman. And he parked his car and he gets out of the car and he was this giant guy. He was about 6'5". And he walked like dum, 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 dum. He gets real close to me with a very serious face. And I know I'm in trouble. And I said, can I help you, officer? And he says, yes. And I think he's going to ask me for like a permit, to paint this wall. And I'm trying to think, okay, who's in charge of the permits? Did we ever get a permit? And then you know what he told me? He says, can I paint with you? That's what he wanted to do. He just wanted to paint the mural. So here's the guy. I had to take a photo because I thought no one would believe me that all he wanted to do was to sit there for a while or stand there and help us paint the mural. So it's a really, really great opportunity for the community to participate and paint murals. And eventually you get a bunch of neighbors to join in. There's kids and their parents and their friends. And we have things like this, right? I mean, when you see this wall, what do you think of it, guys? Is this like a nice wall? Is this a boring wall? Kind of a dull wall? Do you want to hang out in here? Not really, right? You look at this one, you never give it a second thought. It's like, let's just keep on moving. There's nothing to do. But with a little bit of love and all of us putting our hands together, in a couple of days or 3 days, that wall can look like this. So this is what we do. These are the community murals. Notice how graphic they are. And the reason is so that anybody can paint this. From if you are 3 years old, you can paint. If you are 90 years old, you can paint it, because all you do is you fill colors next to each other. And we do these wonderful things. Here's another one I want to show you. Look at this. This was in Fresno, California. Another wall that was asking for color, right? And it was kind of dull. And they parked these really ugly things in front. And then we said, no, we got to love this community. So the neighbors invited me over. And this is us finishing that wall now. So that's in Fresno, and they're taking good care of that. So it's great to do murals because you make so many friends. Show you one more. This is a wall in Chicago where kids needed to go to school and they have to go under this railroad tracks. And it was very scary. And the moms were, they had to push the strollers, and they said, oh, it's kind of smelly and it's really dark. And we just don't like going through that, but we have no choice. We have to go. So I said, well, if we bring art and color, we can really change the look of this and make it feel like this is part of our community. And this is what we did with that. Isn't that great, you guys? So it's great to work together, to put something together and to feel like you accomplished something as a group. So these are my murals. And of course, when you're in the murals, you get to meet a bunch of characters. And some of these characters eventually are the inspirations for my characters in my books. Like this little girl, I was painting in Colorado. Eventually, she became Mira, the girl from the book, Maybe Something Beautiful. Here's another wonderful kid that was painting away, and I love his haircut. And he was my inspiration for Rigoberto, the book that we're going to read today. So this was Rigoberto's inspiration. And here I am painting away the little Rigoberto, and this is what it looked like on the book, of course, at the end. And of course, you will know who this one is. This girl, when I saw her, he goes, this is going to be my Angelina. So this beautiful girl became Angelina on my book. So it's great. As an artist, like I said, you're inspired by dolls, you're inspired by walls, you're inspired by textures, you're inspired by color, by music, always grab a book with you, take a book and inspire yourself and draw all the time. I never stopped drawing. I never stopped taking photos. And you know what's great about being an artist? You never stop learning. I mean, I'm almost 60 and I still learn something new every day. And when you're an artist, you do something different every day. Every day you wake up, there's a white piece of paper in front of you and you go, wow, I got to do something today with this white piece of paper. So don't feel intimidated. Practice all the time. Even after 35 years doing this, I do this all the time. So now that we are in the day you begin, shall we read the story? I'm going to read it with you guys because in my stories, everybody ends up being friends. So I'm going to go for it and let's move along. The day you begin. When this story came to me, I really connected to the story, guys. Jackie did an amazing job. And when I read it, one of the reasons I picked this story and I accepted it is because I saw myself in the story, guys. I came from Mexico and I didn't speak English. So when I came to the US, I didn't speak English very well and I was very intimidated. And when I walk into a room, I thought that everybody was staring at me and I thought everybody was going to be laughing at me because my English was so like the accent was so heavy. So I could really connect to the character of Angelina. So here we go. It says here, there will be times when you walk into a room and no one there is quite like you. Boy, don't we all feel sometimes like that? You walk into any place, it could be the school or a store or a party, and you feel a little different and you feel like a little intimidated. That has happened to me many, many times, right? You don't know anyone yet. You haven't made any friends, right? Maybe it will be your skin, your clothes, of the curl of your hair. In my case, it was my accent. I was so embarrassed. I didn't want to open my mouth. I didn't want people to laugh at me. I wasn't sure if they were going to laugh or not, but they were very curious, right? All right, so here we go. There will be times when no one understands the way words curl from your mouth, the beautiful language of the country you left behind. My name is Rigoberto. We just moved here from Venezuela. And because they don't understand, the classroom will fill with laughter until the teacher quiets everyone. So I relate to this a lot. And this is why I took this, because I could really, really connect to the emotions of what Rigoberto and Angelina were feeling. Rigoberto from Venezuela, your teacher says so softly and beautiful that your name and homeland sounds like flowers blooming the first bright notes of a song. So I thought here, do I really want to put the teacher right next to Rigoberto, or do I want to put him back in his whole native Venezuela? So he's imagining that he's back there in this beautiful jungle, right? I could have easily put him on the classroom, but it loses a little bit of that feeling of what he's really feeling. And that's the point I'm trying to make. You don't have to draw and illustrate what the type says. It's more like what that character is feeling at the time, okay? So it gives you a lot more freedom to explore more visually, a lot more. Let's see. There will be times when the words don't come. Your own voice, once huge, now smaller. When the teacher asks, what did you do last summer? Tell the class your story. Oh, we went to France, Chyla says. These shells came from a beach in Maine. A boy named Jonathan holds out a jar filled with tiny shells, so fragile, they look like they'll turn into dust. In your own untroubled hands. My whole family went to India, Spain, South Carolina. Each souvenir, a small triumph of journeys. Their travels going on and on. And what did you do? You just sat at home, right? Now notice how I play with color here. Look how colorful the side where they went to all these places and travel. It looks like they have this beautiful life. Their life is more colorful than yours. Angelina is sitting on the gray side, like, nah, my life is kind of dull. This is how she feels. So even color here, like I was saying about Mexico, color can also represent feelings and emotions. All right. And as you stand in front of that room, you can only remember how the heat waved as it lifted off the curb, and your day spent at home caring for your little sister, who made you laugh out loud and hug you hard at nap time. You can only remember the books you kept on reading long after she had fallen to sleep. And in that room, where no one else is quite like you, you look down at your own empty hands and wonder, what good is this when other students were flying and sailing and going somewhere? Now, do you see how I represent the other students? I represent them as swallows. They're going somewhere. They're going away. They're flying. They're free to go in all these places. And I'm stuck in this apartment. So here again, you can use a lot of symbolism here. And I'm using the symbolism of the swallows to represent the students going someplace. Boy, how many times have you feel this way too? Like everybody's staring at you. Oh my gosh, it's one of those really weird feelings, right? There will be times when the lunch your mother packed for you is too strange or too unfamiliar to others to love as you do, or for others to love as you do. Now, do you see the table where she's sitting? Notice that the table is actually a ruler. And the reason I put these rulers all around through the book, it's sort of like a sign to say, how do we measure ourselves? How do we measure ourselves against others? You know, do we feel better or less than? So this ruler is a way to show the rest of us that we feel like that. We've been there before, that we are measuring ourselves all the time. And we feel like the whole world is staring at us and our strange food that mom fixed. And you're so embarrassed to even open it. It's like, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to open this and they're going to stare and laugh, right? When even your own friend Naja will wrinkle her nose and say, what's in there anyway? And you'll wonder how she doesn't see that rice beneath the meat and the kimchi. You'll wonder why she doesn't remember that rice is the most popular food in the world. Did you know that, guys? Rice, more than pizza and more than tacos, more than hamburgers. Rice is the most popular food in the whole world. I didn't know that either. So you learn as you illustrate too. I do a lot of research. Oh man, I had been here before. This was pretty much a combination of me and my son, because I was never really good at sports, and I was always the last one to be picked every time we needed to play sport. It's like, who's gonna take Rafael? It was like, well, we'll take him. So I really connected to this part. There will be times when the climbing bars are too high, the run is too fast and far, the game isn't one you can ever really play. That's me. I don't want him in our team. You can watch. Maybe you can have a turn later. You know, kids are kids, right? We all say things, we're very honest. And I heard those comments. So this is sort of like representing me. My son too is not very good at, well, we like to swim, but never be picked up for sports. So this is a great representation. Here's another one. And I feel this way so many times. This is why I love this story. It was really close to me, to this experience. There will be times when the world feels like a place that you're standing all the way outside of. Here again, I play with color and vegetation. You know, you perceive their world beautiful, full of color and flowers and vegetation, and you perceive your own place as this arid desert with nothing grows, and you're sitting there and all by yourself, right? But eventually, what happens? You fall in love with something. Eventually, you find something that you find very inspirational, right? And maybe all it takes is a little time, like falling in love with books. And all that stands beside you is your own brave self, steady as steel and ready, even though you don't yet know what you are ready for. You know, there's the possibilities here. So I wanted to present it as you seeing your reflection of maybe yourself in the future, saying, one day I'm going to feel really confident and all this is going to be in the past because guess what? I'm going to be a great writer. I'm going to be a great illustrator. I'm going to be a great doctor. I'm going to be a great anything you want to be. It's all in the future. The pages of that future is not written yet. You are about to write that story. So this is what happens. There will be times when you walk into a room and no one there is quite like you until the day you begin to share your stories. My name is Angelina, and I spent my whole summer with my little sister, you tell the class. Your voice stronger than it was a minute ago. Reading books and telling stories, and even though we were right on our block, it was like we got to go everywhere. And isn't that what books do, you guys? When you read a book, you can be anywhere because books transport you to these magical places, right? That's why it's beautiful to open a book and the possibilities are where you're going to find and how they're going to inspire you. So this is what I wanted to show, that they can travel and they can flow to any place in the world and there is no limits as to where they can go. Your name is like my sister, Rigoberto says. Her name is Angelina too. And all at once, in the room with no one else is quite like you, the world opens itself up a little wider. to make some space for you. This is when you realize that everybody feels the same way that you do, that they feel just as different. And as you hang around and you open yourself up, you realize there's a lot of common in between all of you and all of us. And that's what's the beauty of humans. We humans have this ability to find common ground and say, hey, you know, there's potential to be friends because we are social people, right? This is the day you begin to find the places inside your laughter and your lunches, your books, your travel and your stories, where every new friend has something a little like you and something else so fabulously not quite like you at all. And that's how you do become friends with people. You are different and you are the same. This is the end of the story, you guys. So I hope you like it. And I hope you feel yourself in there. I saw myself many times. And I love that eventually I have friends. I have friends from elementary school that are still my closest friends. We still stay in touch. So yeah, friendships last forever, right, guys? So I'm going to stop the share and then I'm going to come back to you guys and see if I'm there. And I hope you like it. So any questions that you have, let me know. I'm sure that there'll be some questions about how long it takes to make a book, or how do you got going, or how difficult. I'm all here, you guys. Oh, I can show you, in the meantime, I can show you some sketches. I do tons of sketches. I do things like this all the time, watercolor things. These are part of the original book. And all of this, eventually I scan into my computer. And these things eventually become part of the book, because people tell me, it looks like you hand painted. I go, yes, I did hand painted it. It's just that I now put it together on the computer because it's a lot faster than actually doing the painting. You can see, you know, the little Nadia pulling that little Eiffel Tower. I'll show you some of the drawings that never really made it to the book. These are things that were, you know, they fall into the cutting board. Some ideas for a cover that never really took on, but you can see that there were all these ducks coming out of her hair. And there was even a different character at some point coming into the room. And eventually we switched it to be Angelina. So there is a lot of changes on a book from beginning to end. Who's going to be the character? What kind of person is going to be? Should we include adults? At one point, we had a teacher right there next with Angelina. And then we decided that it wasn't necessary to have an adult that was going to be only focused on the kids. So I can go on and on and on and on about how I create my textures. I create all these textures that these will become eventually part of the flowers and the ground and the stone. I use different methods, like, you know, I use rollers and I put ink in there, and then I just roll it in the paper, and whatever textures I create, they end up looking sort of like this. And this eventually can become a texture on a rock, or, you know, like some vegetation or something. And eventually that I can change the colors on the computer. So one of my favorite things is to spend like 2 months creating different textures with watercolors, with this and that. And these eventually become what I call digital brushes. So with this digital brush, I can just say, I need to go to the watercolor area because I need to do some flowers. I need to do some plants. So I love that process of creating my own textures, because they're my unique textures. No one else has them. They're on my computer and no one else has them. And because the idea is that this doesn't look like it was created on a computer. It looks like it was still hand painted, which it was, except that I put all the pieces, the puzzle, it's put together on the computer, and it saves me time. Usually a book that was traditionally painted would take me about 6 months from beginning to end of the painting process, not the sketching, the painting process. And now they're giving me only 4 months. So I cut about 2 months of the production by doing it all by computer. And it allows me to move things. If they don't like something, I can just grab that area and move it somewhere else, or flip it, or change the color of the proportions. So there's a lot of advantages on the computer for me, but I still want it to look like it was hand paint. Would you like to take a real short tour of the studio real quick? I'm going to disconnect the computer and I'll show you a little bit so you can see some of our originals. Here we go. There we are. This is my favorite books are all here. And of course, this is what I do when I don't have enough time anymore, but this is what I used to have when I had time, find old pieces and do these little robots. I had a presentation for Just As, the book that I did with Justice Sotomayor. So I had to put this on the wall. This is the wall. This is my wall where I put all my like if it would be a movie. I put all of my illustrations here and I move them and I say, okay, this one is not working. Let's put this one over here. There's a big jump in between here. So this is where the whole storyboard takes place in this part. These are my original paintings, the way I used to do them on wood. This is from Book Fiesta. You can see that I created like these boxes. Here's one more from Book Fiesta. I don't know if you remember, you're familiar with that book. This is my book, my collection of things. I love to find things all over Mexico, all over the world, you know, Cuba, this and that. And Katia, okay, let me show you. 1, 2, 3, okay? There's
okay, I believe you.
Okay.
3-time Pura Peltre Illustrator Award winner, everyone.
So I'm gonna back up a little bit so you can see the studio here. This is the messy studio. The other studio is upstairs where I have the computer. So this is what the studio looks like. My table in the back with all my colors, fly over the colors. These are the ones I buy in Mexico. And this is another one from a Drum Dream Girl. Another one of my portraits from Drum Dream Girl. This is from Book Fiesta. I love this monkey, my favorite monkey from Mexico. So I got all kinds of things. As an artist, you need to surround yourself. And this is where all the messiness takes place. Everything happens right here, guys. So there's my studio, a little brief tour. And now I'll sit down. And if you have any questions, I'm here for you guys. Let me know.
I have a question.
Sure.
Or two. So what advice do you have for the kid in the audience who's considering becoming an illustrator one day? And then the other question is, or for the adult who's considering becoming an illustrator one day?
Okay, so one thing that I think is great is for the youth is time. You have your youth, it's a huge advantage, right? Because it's a process that could take a while. It's something that you have to be very convinced within your heart that this is something that you love doing. And as if you feel it and you wake up every morning and you say, you know, I just can't wait to get there. I can't wait to sit down in the studio and do it. It's a huge advantage. I have many friends that found it difficult after a while and they gave up. You know, one of the things that I love is to be an illustrator. I love collaboration. I have this very tiny ego. Maybe I don't know, but I don't like to be like the artist, you know, don't tell me what to do. I'm not going to change it. I always address people as, hello team, how's it going? What do you think of the latest thing? I like to collaborate. I like when people give me ideas and suggestions. And if I think mine is better, I keep my mouth quiet until I'm ready to type the points I'm trying to make. It's better to write them down and to make your points. And then 7 out of 10 times you win the case. Because you said the reason I did this is because this, and this, and this. I didn't do it out of darkness. It came because I did this whole thought process. So I love collaboration, and it took me a good 5 years to really get going. So it depends on you if you're ready to jump in it. I mean, at the time as an adult, I was doing a little bit of graphic design too. So I was doing graphic design and illustration, graphic design, illustration until the one took over the other, and then eventually I just dropped graphic design. And then of course there's always the self-doubt that everybody goes through, of course, and you need friends to cheer you up and say, hey, what are you talking about? It's like, no, I'm not good at this, you know, it's never gonna happen, blah 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 blah. You sit on the edge of the table, but it happens, guys. I mean, it happens because you feel it. I suggest and I encourage people to find your own voice. It's a lot easier now too, because now it's easier to expose the public to your work by just using Instagram or Facebook and say, hey, I'm working on something. There are some people that are incredibly diligent at posting something every day, and they have like 10,000 followers or 8,000 followers, right? I don't have time for that. I don't know how they do that, you know, because I'm a dad too. I need to find time to do all these things, but there's people that are posting. And what's wonderful about posting too is that you have something fresh that you just finished. And you post it, and the more you post, the more people start to follow you. And before you know it, an art director or an editor is going to look at your work and say, hey, you know what? I like what you're doing there. It's a growing industry, and it's a growing industry that is actually accepting more individual voices versus the traditional old school of illustration where you needed to do traditional drawings and needed to look very traditional. There's now different diverse styles, which is very refreshing because they finally recognize that kids are very sophisticated and they're not gonna go like, well, that style looks a little weird. They're just gonna enjoy it. I think they select the style according to the story, and I think that's really refreshing that they're allowing new voices to be to express themselves on books. So yeah, I think that I don't know if I'm answering the question or not, but it's like if you feel it and you sit every day and you work at it every day, it happens. I mean, it takes times, but it happens because you're out there and exposing yourself. In the old days, you needed to spend a ton of money to buy a page on a book that came out a year later, and then when it comes out, your work is a year old, and you don't like it anymore. And you're like, people are gonna call me for this, and now I do something totally different. You don't have to do that anymore. You can create your own website, your own blog, your own Instagram, your Facebook. You can just send it to the world, and the world can see it. And eventually in that world, there's going to be some people that are going to be working on the industry and say, of course, I would also try to do things that relate to the book industry as well, right? So yeah, do something that looks childlike, that it could go with the story. Maybe you want to write a small story and send a little sketch with it or a little illustration. But more than anything, don't be tempted to copy someone else. Try to be yourself. That's the one thing that is going to really make you stand out, That's it. I'm going to cry right now. No, I'm just kidding. I just get too emotional.
Does anybody else have any questions for Rafael?
Okay, there it is. There's someone that one of the little kids with Lori Bed. Mm-hmm. I think they're mute, so they're you see him?
Yes.
Okay.
You unmute.
And there's also Tori also has a question too. So.
Okay, we can hear you, kids.
How much time a day do you draw?
Ooh, great question. What is your name, by the way? Bo, thank you. Well, that's a great question, Juan. Thank you for sticking around, and I hope you like the presentation. I draw a lot. Lately, I'm drawing a lot, so what time I wake up? I wake up around 5 a.m, and then I go for a walk. No, 5 a.m. I go for a walk. I like to take a break. I go to Balboa, walk for a while, and then come back, and I sit down with my coffee, and I start sketching and drawing and painting. And then I could draw and paint for 8 to 10 hours, because now I'm dad too. Dad gets to be busy and do things, but 8 to 10 hours. But you know what? Time flies, Bo. It's like this, because I don't even pay attention. I'm having so much fun. And then it's like, okay, what? Oh, and then here's the other thing, Bo. Sometimes I feel like there's no ideas, right? And I have to come up with an idea, and I don't have it. But all I have to do is put pencil down on paper. And then I start sketching. And I go, no, this is not good. No, this isn't good. And I just keep moving. And then all of a sudden I go, oh, I get it. Then I do something. And then that triggers a second idea. And I go, oh, what about this? And then what about that? And what about this? And before you know it, I have like 6, 7 ideas. And then I can't stop the brain. It's like, stop. I got too many ideas, but they take a while to get started. But yeah, it's really fun because time flies when you're having fun, right? Doesn't that happen to you, Bo?
Mm-hmm.
Great question. How about you, Tori? You had a question too. Tori has her mute, so maybe she wants to unmute. There it is.
By the way, Erica, just my mom, I forgot to change the name. First of all, my grandfather had children's books.
Oh, he does?
I want to be an artist.
You want to be an artist? Oh my gosh, that is so cool. I didn't know your grandpa does. Do you ever talk to him? That is so cool.
He lives close by. And my question is,
Sure.
Is how do you get along, right? What does he tell you to do?
Oh, what a great question. So I'll share a secret with you. The writer and the illustrator, they never speak to each other. You know that? So, and the reason, why? They don't want to influence each other. They don't want her, in this case, Jackie, they don't want her to tell me what to do or what color she wants or what scene she's envisioning. They want me to make my own vision of what I read on her story. And they don't want me to tell her, hey, you know what? I really want to do this illustration. So could you change your text here? They don't want that to happen. They don't want to talk to each other. There's no dialogue between us, right? So there's a person in the middle, and that person is called the editor and the art director. those two people are in charge of making fun and making sure that everything is going to work. That, you know, I'm reading really well what she's doing, and then they send it back to her and says, what do you think of this? And then she says, yeah, I like it, but she's not allowed to talk directly to me. Isn't that interesting? So the only reason, and the reason for that is they want the vision to stay pure, very pure. They want her writing to be very pure, and my vision of what she wrote and the story very, very pure. And hopefully we become friends at the end. And I've been very lucky. I've been lucky, Tori, that yes, they like what I've done. And you forge this long relationships, friendships is really nice. It's a great question. Most people think that you talk with them all the time. You're on the phone going like, hey, what do you want me to do here? What do you think I should do? That doesn't happen at all. Isn't that interesting?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, there you go. Anyone else, guys? Well, you're welcome. You're welcome. Any other question?
How did you
Susanna has one. Oh,
Oh, okay.
did you have another question too?
Speak up. Go. Say it loud.
How did you paint the walls?
Oh, yeah, well, great question too. You know what I use? Don't tell anyone, no. House paint. House paint. Yeah, and you know what I use? It's the one that is called flat. Flat because it's not shiny. So when you order that flat paint, and I buy them by the gallons, they're just giant gallons, right? And then when you paint that flat one, it looks beautiful. When you paint with that shiny one with the gloss, it looks weird. If you make a mistake and you put more than 2 or 3 like brush strokes, you can see the difference between the paint where you paint just one brush stroke and when you put like 5 or 6. So I like flat house paint. So I go to any store and I say, guys, we're doing a mural with a bunch of very talented kids that are my friends. Would you give me like a really great discount? And we're going to invite you over to this party because at the end, the last day in the murals, we throw this big party and we invite musicians and people dance and we bring food. So the people that are not painting, they're dancing or they're eating and everybody takes turns. So we said, okay, next group is going to be here for half an hour painting on the wall. Okay, now you back away and another group comes sit because sometimes I have like 200 kids. Can you believe that? 200 kids painting this big, big wall and we do it in like this. It happens so quickly. It's like magic. But yeah, I use house paint.
House paint.
Yeah, big jugs, gallons of that with big brushes too, big giant, you know, as thick as my 2 hands together, right? It's really fun. All right, any other questions, guys? Like, do you know how long it takes to create a book from beginning to end? It takes about almost 2 years from the time they call you and then they say, okay, we want to see sketches. So then you do the sketches and then they do the revisions and then they come back to you to do the revisions. And by the time you start painting and then you finish the paintings and then the book comes out, it's about 2 years. Yeah, from beginning to end. It's like the movies, right? That take that long. It takes a long time for a book to come out. Isn't that interesting? Most people think it's like just months, but it's 2 years. It's a long time. Pretty crazy, huh? I know.
Did you want to ask your question? Yes.
Hi, I just wanted to make sure all the kids got to ask first.
Oh, yes. They
Yeah.
questions too. Hi.
Hi, Rafael. Thank you
How are
so
you?
much for your talk.
Absolutely.
I've really enjoyed it, and you are a wonderful person. I just was curious, what are you working on right now?
Oh, great question. Okay. So another secret, not so secret anymore. I am working on a second book with Jackie Woodson. It's going to be a follow-up with the same character with Angelina. We're working, I'm about halfway through the book right now with the finished paintings. So it's coming up in January of 2022. So that's pretty exciting right now. And the thing that is keeping me really, really busy right now, I'm working for the Smithsonian in Washington, D.C., painting 77 portraits. So that's keeping me very busy, guys. So it's like, work here and then work on the book. I'm back with the Smithsonian. So it's Smithsonian and Penguin in New York, you know, I was going back and forth. And, but I love it. I love being busy. I love feeling that craziness and chaotic because it keeps me sort of like as sharp as I can at my age. And I love switching back and forth between my portraits and the children's book. It's really fun though. Yeah. And I just finished some stamps that are coming up in another year or two for the Postal Service. but I can't disclose them yet, but they're coming up. Yeah, they'll be fun. I will let you know, guys. I'll put it on my Facebook or something.
And how will we find the Smithsonian work when that's done?
You know,
Will
when
it be
that's
in a
done,
book?
I haven't disclosed that yet publicly, but it's gonna be a new gallery that is opening up in the Smithsonian, and it's a very wealthy family. I think it's a family of doctors, Latinos, and it's called the Molina family, or the Molina Gallery, and it will feature many Latinos from the 17th century, you know, from way back in the early 1700s all the way up to the modern times. And it's going to be a lot more. This is going to be a gallery that is going to be interactive. We're also designing this mobile that is going to have all these beautiful icons. I'm designing those as well. And then, of course, the portraits of people from all the way back to the early 1700s. And I think, I guess you're going to have to keep an eye on the Molina thing. It's going to happen by the end of the year. I need to be done by the end of the year. It's going to take a whole year, this project, bro. So maybe by the end of the year, you can start Googling Molina Gallery in DC in the Smithsonian, and see if they already have something out there, you know. But for the time being, we need to keep mom's the word. It's a fun thing you can't say sometimes. You can't put anything on Facebook, you know. It's like, oh, I wish I could share this with friends, but I can't. But with you guys, because we're a small group here, I can, of course.
Tori, I see your hand is raised.
All right, Tori, what do you have there? And you get to unmute yourself so I can hear you, Tori. There you go.
Asked that question. I forgot to put my hand down. Sorry.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, it's nice seeing you again.
No
That's pretty
problem.
cool.
Well, can I see a show of hands? How many people want to paint a mural with Rafael one day?
Hey, me too. Me too. I'm telling you guys, when this pandemic is over and it's safe to go back, and I'm glad that you guys are all taking care of yourselves. I can't wait to see it. Actually, we have to cancel 2 murals. One was in Virginia because we couldn't do it. It happened right in the middle of the pandemic. So yeah, next time there's something local going on, I'll spread the word at the library and let you know, guys, I need some talented assistants. Come on down and help me out. All right.
Please do. So, I mean, I love seeing the smiles on everyone's faces as you were talking.
Yes,
Your
thank you.
illustrations, and I mean, you transcend the pages, you inspire readers, communities, and on behalf of Coronado Public Library, just thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, everyone. It was great seeing you all. Thank you for staying so late and listening to the story of the artist here. And it was an honor to be with you guys. I love Coronado. That's where I swim. It's a beautiful community. So keep it beautiful. And thanks again. And go and do your dreams, guys. I love to see you in the future and see what you've done with your beautiful lives. Okay. It was great seeing you all, guys.
Thank you.
Take care.
Everyone.
Have a good one, guys. Great evening.
Bye.
Bye-bye.